warmly welcome all of us. All of you have found the Trace for Value meeting now during the Sweden Innovation Days. We are so happy to be able to contribute to the program. We are quite a bunch of people who are working within this, for a national perspective, rather large project called Traceability for Sustainable Value Chains. My name is Malin Rosqvist. I work at RISE, Research Institute of Sweden, and spend most of my time with one of the strategic innovation programs, which is PIA, Process Industrial IT and Automation, where I work with program strategies and our calls and collaboration with other programs and stakeholders where we find common interests in this huge sector. I thought I'd say something about the strategic innovation programs, just for those of you who might not be aware yet. This is the present setting from the Swedish funding agencies Vinnova, Energimyndigheten, and Formas. They have designed, or together with the industries, 17 different innovation programs, which are all active right now. Where PIA, my program, is one. We have a few more that we will look at soon within this project. And of course, very excited, all of us, to see what will happen in the near future, which is moving from the strategic innovation programs to the impact innovation programs, where the funding agencies hope that we will make even better impact within those different sectors. And this process is coming alive right now, where we have a number of pre-studies that are sort of shaping up how we can address more of the global agenda goals together and join forces between the different sectors. So I think, of course, that our Trace for Value project is exactly in the place where it should be right now, since we're collaborating over many industrial sectors and also between the different programs that we're already having. So I'm really proud to be the project manager of this adventure. These are the innovation programs which are involved in the Trace for Value project. And also we should say that the idea pretty much comes from the delegation from Circular Economy in Sweden. And they were reaching out to us like 2 years ago and discussing how the strategic innovation programs could help doing something for the delegation and for the circular economy, and how to increase the efforts in moving from a linear to circular economy. And those now 6 innovation programs sort of answered that call, and that turned out to be the Trace for Value project. Just to mention PIA, which is also a quite broad program. So we go over 7 different industry branches. Now we have also a child, which is very welcome into the meeting, just so you know. Thank you. Everything from pharmaceuticals to metal industry, chemistry, production of food, mining, forestry, and power production. So a pretty broad program, and reaching out also to the other ones to make even better influence on how we run the value chains from the very beginning to end of life and recycling. Going back to what we're here for today, the Trace for Value project. So the mission has been from the beginning to start and support continuously successful consortia who have already been working together to make it able for them to expand their activities within the Trace for Value project under that sort of shared umbrella, and to gather even more stakeholders to drive this change, also contributing to policy and design of programs, working with the funding agencies to increase the green efforts in the existing programs and the future ones. And of course, secure common learning and sharing of experience between those different sectors to move faster forward together and contribute to whatever projects and activities that we find along the way, where a few to mention already now is the SURPASS project, which is European, looking at digital product passports, and also on national level, the PROPARE project with the AXE Foundation. Today, we're going to listen to a few of our domain-specific projects: KEEP, digital product passports and textile, digital twins and circular value networks, and 4 steps to eating. Unfortunately, our nutrition and food production fell sick the latest minute now, so we'll have to wait with that one. Just to mention, we're quite a big bunch who work together here, which I think is amazing that we can handle that. We're more than 60 partners, all engaged in the same project. And if you would be curious to learn more about this, we also have a longer project meeting tomorrow. My task as being the project manager here is to work on the expansion and to make the most of the project and the consortium that we have already. So expanding on a national level, but also on an international level, Europe and international, working with policy and strategic communication, and of course, investigate how we can do even better on the synergy level and continue to work with the strategic innovation programs and the funding agencies to find better value going forward, and hopefully then also in the impact innovation program. Just to mention very briefly our international outreach so far, the Trace for Value project is, of course, closely involved with the already existing innovation programs and their international efforts. But to mention a few, the IATS program, which is through the International Energy Agency, we have some efforts in sharing best results with a global consortium within the industrial energy-related technologies and systems platform through the Ragn-Sells. We have 2 European projects onto Decides Reincarnate. Maybe Karin will mention this later also. And then we also have the Swedish InTech project, which is reaching out mainly to the US with a focus on Silicon Valley and also to Canada, where we hope to combine competencies between the countries to make even more for the global circular economy and the green transition. And that was sort of the end of my little introduction here. And here we have the happy faces of our extremely competent project managers who will now take over and present. And we're going to start with Sophie and Keep.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I assume yes, otherwise, yeah. So I'm Sophie Charpentier. I'm working at Chalmers Industritechniek. We are a foundation that is working with innovation projects that are in between industry and academic. And I will give you a 5-minute crash course or tour of our Keep 3 project, a traceability system for electrical and electronic products in a circular system. That's a mouthful. On the next slide, you see, so I said Keep 3, and I want to just take a minute to tell you why it's 3. So in 2018, my colleagues, I was not in the group back then, but my colleagues saw a need of knowing more about electronic things, products. There was several recycling project about this, and the thought was like, wouldn't it be great if we knew which material there was, and for example where the battery is located in a certain phone and stuff like that. So in 2018 we got a first project financed by Vinnova that was called Key, and the idea there was just to explore what it could be. And that was on the timeline, you see that it's like a year before the European Green Deal. So at that time, like no one was about traceability. And on the next slide, you will see a bit what we have learned about this. Thank you. There was three ideas that we can take, or three application that we have from the traceability. It enables easier material recycling, easier reuse, and also sustainable production. And on the next picture, you will see that everyone has information that they can, like at least in the idea, everyone can have information that they're putting in and information that they're getting out. So everyone in the value chain can have advantages of this. This was Keep 1. Keep 2 that you will see on the second one. Then the idea was to, again, financed by Vinnova, 2 years project. The idea was to develop a prototype. And if you click through, you will see that it's unified. It gives an idea of how decentralized information can be presented in a unified interface. If you're interested by this, you can look at our webpage, and we also published the code for the interface on GitHub for those who want to tinker with that. You can go forward. Thank you. Some learnings from Keep 3. You can read the slide, but in a nutshell, it seems that the solution will be a decentralized storage of data. They're talking about this now on the EU level, but there's a reason why they came to that conclusion. And there's a difficulty in making sure that the data that is corrected, that is entered, is correct. and also protected, like in the life cycle of the product. You can move forward. And now we are at keep 3 inside the Trace for Value. We're very glad of that. And the focus this time, if you can go forward, is on, we are 24 of the 60-something partners in Trace for Value in Keep, and we have partners along the full value chain, 3 partners from outside of Sweden, US, UK, and Netherlands. I think on the next slide, you will be able to see the structure of the work packages and the workhorses of the project, our work package 2 and 3, where we have tests between companies. So instead of discussing about the properties that we want to have, an example of traceability system, we're trying to get companies that are working together to transfer the information from one company to the other. And it's a much more small scale because then it's real data and the complexity increases a lot. You can go forward. We have 3 tests pilots in the work package 2 that is on the sales side. There's discussion on history log with the companies on the left. The companies in the middle are working with the code on the product. Clas Ohlson will sell 3 types of product. It's solceller, solar cells product with a QR code, and Mousetrapper will sell the 3rd test group, a product with a code on as well, one of their keyboards. In the next slide, I give a little bit of information of what happens on the reuse and recycling end, and there is also how traceability can increase the rate of reuse and recycling. You can go forward. Thank you. I want to take a minute, since Monica is not there, we'll take one of her 5 minutes to tell you about Trust for Value, which is our policy development project. I'm sorry it was not announced, Malin. And this is just to tell you that we, in the projects that we are involved in, saw that there was a use, you can move forward, that there was a use for putting our efforts, the ones that are involved in traceability, together to help prepare the Swedish people for the upcoming legislation on the digital product pass. And this is a project that we have started now, and we have enquête, or like a survey right now. Those who speak Swedish can gladly fill in this. I hope that we can put maybe the link in the chat. And we are 7 organizations working on this. And at the moment, we are identifying where we can basically help by giving information. This is why we have a survey. I think that's all. For the slides, but you can stop there. That's good. Very good.
That's all from Sophie. Thank you so much, Sophie. Great presentation, great work, I must say. Then we'll move on to another sector, introducing Marianne Udman.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Malin. So I'm leading together with Lynn as well, we're leading the textile package for the Trace for Value project. And if you go to the next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of a background about TrustTrace before I jump into the project, so you understand of why we're leading this and why it makes sense for us to be involved and leading this project. So TrustTrace, we're a supply chain transparency and product traceability SaaS platform, so a digital platform for brands to do traceability. Our brands are global fashion and retail brands, and we have a head office in Stockholm, an office in India, France, and the US. We have grown quite significantly in the last couple of years, so now we're over 100 people strong. And we have quite solid experience in delivering very large scale traceability programs for some of the biggest brands in the world. So next slide, please. Thank you. What you will see here is actually a simplified view of our platform. So what we've seen is that if brands want to become more transparent and really have traceability, a traceability system, a digital system, is really unavoidable for them to achieve that control of their value chain. So here you will see a jacket and all the different components, and you would have a lot more detail behind that. I won't go into that because that's not the point of this presentation, but it's more to give you a background. Okay, this is what we do on our day-to-day basis anyway. So if you go to the next slide, please. So what we've also seen, and Sophie touched on it as well, is really the regulations that are pushing the brands not only to want to be more transparent, but to have to be more transparent. And under the European Green Deal and the Sustainable Textile Strategy especially, there's been so many new regulations coming up that brands have to comply with it, and they really have to start changing. So on the next slide, please. So what we're doing now under Trace for Value is also to continue that and really to focus on the compliance innovation. So the digital product passport, what Sophie was also just explaining, is what we're focusing on the textile side. The textiles are one of the main industries that have been identified as the most polluting areas. So that's why the textiles is being a big focus. And the digital product passport, what it will do is really to help the sustainability through this transparency. And through this transparency, again, you have improved durability. You will be able to increase the recyclability and ultimately reduce the waste. So if we're going into the different areas for sustainable production, for example, that's really, you need to understand your production so that you can improve it, and you need to have that visibility, that understanding. You will be able to increase or have a better circular economy, because if you're looking at, for example, a recycler, if they straight away know what a product is made of and how they can recycle it, that will increase the speed of recycling. It will make it simpler, it will make it easier. Again, on the authorities, they will have a much better and simpler way to see that you're compliant from a due diligence perspective, for example. And then on the consumers, to help them making the sustainable choices that they maybe want to do, but don't have the information to be able to make those choices at this point in time, and to compare products, but also to have information about what should I do with this product when it breaks? How do I repair it? How do I, where do I go? Where can I recycle it? And so on. And then of course, with all that, if you have this digital product passport, there will be a lot of new business opportunities, from more resale, more recycling, more repair. There's a lot more opportunities on that side as well. So this is just, and I don't think we need to dwell on this because Sophie also explained a little bit, but what it is ultimately, for those who don't really know what the digital product passport is, it's a digital device, or it's a QR code in this case, attached to a garment that can be accessed by all different stakeholders that somehow want to receive information of a product. And I won't dwell on it. So these are the project partners that are involved in this project. It's not as many as Keep, but we have, we're doing real life pilots with products out in the market from their current collection from Marimekko and Kappahl. So it's about the system behind it that needs to be robust. Those garments will be out there in years to come as well. So it needs to be accessed as well later on from all the different stakeholders I just showed you. So we have those brands. I won't go through all of them, but we have the standard bodies and policy and all different parties involved in this project. So just to give you a bit more understanding of what is it we'll do and how we will do it. So what we'll do is we'll have a digital ID, similar to what you heard already. That ID will be linked through a QR code to the product data, with the product data to a product. We'll then pilot that out in the market, and then there will be different interfaces regarding if it's a brand, a consumer, or authority of which kind of data they can access of this product. That sounds very simple. It's not as simple. The biggest part really is the data. We've been working on that a lot lately, and it's to understand what are the different requirements that are needed for the brands, from the policies, from the consumer. And the reason why it's maybe even more complex than it should be is just because the ESPR, which is the Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulation, which is the regulation under which the digital product passport fits in. Most likely it's only going to be mandatory from 2025, 2026. So not all the requirements in terms of data and data sharing, etc., are available yet. So we need to take a lot of assumptions. We need to work with the policy people. We need to work together with the standard bodies, etc., to make a lot of assumptions, because this project will be launched or it will be finalized in Q3 2024. So before all the requirements are clear. And then it's also all about which standards, which protocols. There's lots of different standards, from a GTIN standard and so on, that can be used to really enable this interoperability, which is very, very important in order to have all the different stakeholders being able to access the information. And then it's the architecture behind it. How do you collect it? How do you link it? Is it decentralized? Is it not? How do you have a resolver or not? All that part behind it, and then the different interfaces. Sorry, I know I'm keeping quickly. It's just I won't go into it, but I'm saying it's complex. It's very complex about the data, what needs to be collected, what are the different standards, who needs the data, how can you serialize the data so that it makes sense. So it's basically a language that you're creating. And again, that will ultimately be somewhere written down and set in stone, and everyone will follow that. But because it doesn't exist yet, we have to do it in parallel with some of the other projects. And keeping in mind it's a pilot, what we're doing is we're building the infrastructure so flexible that we're able to adopt, modify, or change anything that will be coming from the Commission at a later stage. Yeah, and I think this is the last, so it's just the timing. I mentioned this already. So it's basically that the regulation will only be out 2025, 2026. It's an assumption. This pilot will be done in Q3 2024. So we're taking a lot of assumptions, but it's really to prove what can be done and what to show, okay, what is possible right now with the technology that exists right now, with the systems, keeping in mind that a lot of brands and textile industry is not very digitalized yet. So what can we do that is really practical and workable and not just theoretical? That's it. Thank you. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly or to Malin or whoever.
Great, amazing work, Marianne. And I think it's also beautiful that we see the synergies between the textile sector where you are active and Keep, where Sophie is at. I think that's one of the benefits here in the project. Thank you so much. We're moving on to Karin from Ragn-Sells.
Yes, thank you, Malin. My name is Karin Wallenberg. I'm working at Ragn-Sells, and this is our sub-project that we call Digital Twins in Circular Value Networks. And what we want to do, this is a feasibility study, and we have just started. And the goal with this project is to create a circular value network or an ecosystem for the construction industry. So we have focused on the construction industry here. We are looking at flat glass as an object here. And what we mean by a circular value network is this ecosystem of actors that can enable recirculating products in the system, or materials, products or materials. And I know that there sometimes are different meanings of a digital twin. So what we mean in this case is that it's a digital representation of this ecosystem, this circular ecosystem, where we can exchange exchange data that is traceable. And this project started in the beginning of 2002 and will end in the Q2 2024. Next slide, please, Martin. So why are we looking at flat glass? Flat glass is the highest quality of glass that we have. And we have just developed a process for upcycling flat glass before. It have many times been ended up in landfill or been downgraded for containers or so, but now we have a cooperation between Ragn-Sells and Saint-Gobain for upcycling flat glass to keep the high quality. And flat glass is the glass that we use for windows in buildings, for example. And as I mentioned, we want to decrease the amount that ends up in landfill, which is really bad for us. And we also want to decrease the amount of virgin raw materials that are also ending in about 50 years. So there will not be sand enough to create qualified flat glass in the future. And as you can see here in the picture, we also decrease the emissions with over 50% by using recycled flat glass. So this has also a great benefit for the environment to do this. So this is the case we're looking at, and these are some of the benefits we see. So next slide, please, Malin. And what are we going to do in this project? We want to look at how to exchange information in a circular value network, or the data. And to do that, we need a common way to express the data and information through the whole ecosystem. And that's why we are looking at developing an ontology, a digital language that can translate information between actors, between stakeholders in the whole ecosystem, but it's also readable for both computers and for humans. So this is a way to exchange data in a structured way, but also in a traceable way. And we will develop this ontology and a software solution for data sharing, and evaluate this and see how it works in the use case of flat glass. So we will follow the flat glass, these windows are being demolished, then the glass is being crushed and then reused in the manufacturing process. We will look at this whole process from window to new window and evaluate this method. What we will also look at is the business perspective of this. So we will, along with this, look at the circular business model for this ecosystem. You can take the next one. Yes. And as both Marianne and Sophia has been talking about, it's a lot about data. So this picture, it's not, the purpose is not that you're gonna see all those stickers, but what it shows is actually a simplified version of the flat glass being recycled. So the ecosystem for recycling flat glass. And orange ones and red ones, they are actors or stakeholders in the system. We have yellow ones representing actions. We have some green ones that transport and tenders. And pink ones are deviations or questions being asked in this ecosystem by different actors. And one of the important questions is what data or information is needed in this ecosystem. So we are right now analyzing that, and by whom is it needed and from whom? Who can give this information in the ecosystem? And how do we collect the data needed? So we are looking at the inventory part, we are looking at quality assurance, end of life, going through this whole ecosystem. And then the question, how do we share this data in a structured and in a scalable way? We are looking at flat glass now, but the purpose of an ontology is that we can use it for first the flat glass circulation, but also for the whole construction industry, but also to other domain industries. So this should be a way of sharing information between industries. That's our main goal. You can take the next slide, Malin. So what do we want to do in this feasibility study? We want to verify how we can share information in the ecosystem in order to enable a way to scale the circular economy. We want to create a foundation upon which circular solutions can scale, and we need to understand the need of the data in the ecosystem, and also make sure that the business model is sustainable. And next one. Thank you. And I would also like to mention, as Malin said before, that tomorrow we have an open project meeting, and I'm going to have a bit of a longer presentation there where we focus a bit more on the project and also the ontology part and the circular business model.
Great. So I just took the opportunity now to add the registration page to the meeting tomorrow in the chat for those of you who we hope to see again tomorrow. Thank you so much, Karin. This is so important work. Then we move on to some other perspectives on construction industry, moving over to Bernt.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Bernt Larsson. I'm the project manager for digitization within Swedish Wood. And the project I'm going to talk about is named 4 Steps to GT, and I'll get back to that. The construction industry has begun its transition towards a more circular and sustainable society, I guess you could call it. We need to proceed quite quickly here, and it requires a lot of cooperation and joint efforts to, for instance, be able to contribute to the fulfillment of the green goals that now are set on a global, European, and national level. We even have national legislation now that affects industry, and where we need to do extensive work with the climate impact from buildings and facilities and so on and so on. So it's a lot of things going on right now that the construction industry need to adapt to and make sure that we can fulfill the goals and requirements. Next slide, please. No matter what the roles we have or what part of the construction industry we belong to, we must do the job together. This is an industry that works traditionally in ways that are in silos regarding their own operations, optimization, information systems, and so on. And that needs to be broken now. We can't deliver what's supposed to deliver from industry perspective. If we do that, keep that work up and running. We need to collaborate also during the whole life cycle of a building. And it's long life cycles. It could be 50, 100 years. And that is a challenge together with the number of components and parts and products that are in a building or in a facility. We need to be able to make sustainable choices and think circularity all the steps and all the stages you can see here, all the way to the end of life, of course, and also all the way to when you can dismantle a building, for instance, and so that we can reuse and recover and recycle resources, components, products, and materials. And those resources need to be, of course, circulated within value networks, and probably with new business models or a combination of new and old business models as well. Next slide, please. To make sustainable choices and to create these kind of circular economy and business models, we need information and data about the building in itself, of course, how it's built, how it's structured and designed, and also about all the products that the building that is built into the building. So we can make decisions about how to dismantle and what to reuse or recover or recycle, for instance. To fulfill those purposes, the data needs to be what you can see at the bottom level of the slide here. I won't go into it. It's quite generic, I think, so you can read it by yourself. And we need to be able to pass on and update the information data during all the life cycles. And that means that we need to transfer it between a lot of actors and systems, and even after the life cycle to the next user in the circular economy. Next slide, please. Because if you think about it, if we should be able to use resources in a circular way, and if you want to buy circular resources, you still want the same questions answered regarding what is it that we are buying and are going to use, and what is it we actually are going to build in the living and working environments that we are constructing in the future. And what is characteristics and properties it has, and it's so many products in a building. So it's a huge, large volume of information data. If you combine that to your life cycle, it also needs to be actual and updated, stored and transferred and shared in some way. So we really need these kind of common digital language instruction formats that also make the information accessible and searchable in applications and databases. Next slide, please. The concept of GTIN, where GTIN is standing for the Global Trade Index Number, that is a GS1 standards for item to make them global, unique, and traceable. It has been conducted as a pre-study with a focus on the product construction stages of a building product. So the purpose with the pre-study has been to find the recommended standards and methods for the digitization and to point out gaps that need to be addressed and solved in the next step here. And the next step is now starting to find some structure after the pre-study, where we have a lot of smaller sub-projects based on the findings and the reports. And the project report can be downloaded through the link you can see here, or through Trace4Value website from today, or to the QR code you can see down here. It's a report that you don't read during a coffee break. It's around 100 pages, but it could be read in parts or just a summary parts, for instance. Unfortunately, we can't provide you the report in other languages than Swedish right now, but we hope to be able to produce a very compressed white paper, and that will then be translated to English as well, but that will probably not be until next month or something like that. That was a very short one. Thank you.
Great job, Bernd. And of course, you have been the fastest sub-project within the Trace4Value consortium. So you're pretty much done now with your final report, but we are looking forward to your continuation and also the collaboration with the Smart Build program. So we hope to see more of you and your partners, 20 partners in this project already.
Yeah.
Going forward. And of course, also here, there are lots of international threads to connect to and to hold on to already, that you have the collaboration with other stakeholders, and looking forward to that. Well, thank you so much, Bernd.
Welcome.
So there again, I thought just to show our amazing sub-project managers here, if you want to reach out, and also of course pointing out to Monica Odlare at Mälardalen University, who couldn't be with us here today. She is focusing on how we can use waste as a resource and taking that back as nutrition for the food industry, or how to grow things in a sustainable way. Also, so a warm recommendation, and hopefully then we'll have a short presentation also by them tomorrow in the project meeting. So just to mention, all our meetings in Trace4Value are open, totally open. So anyone who's interested and can benefit from the learnings we are doing going on in the project are welcome to join. So just register for our newsletter or the meeting invites, and we'll make sure that you are invited and can be part of the discussion. And that's hopefully how we can reach out to even more industry branches and domains and involve more projects and just build a connection between different projects also, because of course we know there are a number of projects all in Sweden and in Europe and also on the international level who can sort of benefit from the learnings in between. So that's what we would like to do, and also of course build the basis for a continued collaboration which goes beyond this setting with those 60 partners that we have today. And that's of course where we also ask for your input and your help to make us succeed in this mission to do as much as we can with this funding that we have now from Vinnova. And that's pretty much, I think, where we end this presentation. We are approaching 11:15, and that's where we are meeting. Thank you so much for your attention.